Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of Rajneeti. Rajneeti means politics. Politics means the chance to make a difference. The difference in the society, to make a stand, to take a stand, and to help people that actually make this commitment to serve you, to do the things that they're meant to do, and for you to support them. In Rajneeti, we try and meet people that are doing this, the MPs that make that difference. We've met many Conservative and many Labour MPs so far, and they all have given us their in-depth insight into their journey coming up to the general elections on December 12th. Today again, I have requested on behalf of MATV, Bob to come back to the studios to explain to us exactly the meaning of making that difference. Bob Blackman has been doing his job for the last 9.5 years, making that difference. But a lot of you who want to again make that difference can't, because for whatever reason on election day you have some commitments that you can't avoid and you can't come and make that vote, which is very important. So I'm going to say again a warm welcome to Bob Blackman. Welcome, Bob.
Namaskar.
Namaskar ji. And welcome again. I know it's short notice and I'm so glad you could make it.
My pleasure.
But we really wanted to understand, there's a lot of your constituents and people living in Wembley, Harrow and all the neighbouring areas, as well as different parts of the country,
Yes.
who are over a certain age. And they want to make that vote, they want to make that difference, and they can't. So tell us today about this whole postal voting scenario, and if people actually want to vote, what do they do?
Okay. Well, the first thing obviously is that everyone over the age of 18 should be, must be actually legally, be on the electoral register. Now, if people are not on the electoral register, of course they can't vote. So the first thing that people should do is make sure that they're on the electoral register. By now, everyone should have received their polling card, which is the card that says where they go to vote. If they haven't received a polling card, that could be either it's been misplaced or not delivered properly, or that they're not on the electoral register. So the first thing I would say is they must register by 5 p.m. on the 26th of November. So they've got a few days, but they should check if they haven't received a polling card. If they've received a polling card, don't worry. So the next thing is lots and lots of people, particularly of Indian origin, often don't bother to vote. And that can be because they're either ill, they may be abroad on business, they may be abroad on holidays, they may be working hard and just not able to get to the polling station in time. So there's a range of choices. The first is that if they're going to be away on polling day, or they know they will not be able to vote at the polling station, they can register for a postal vote. Now they need to contact their local authority, so the council. They can do so online, get the form, they need to fill in the form, and each council, I'm afraid, has a different type of form because it's personalised to their area. They fill in their details, their name, address and so on. They have to sign it and they have to give their date of birth, which is absolutely crucial. They then have to send that form to the local authority, and it must arrive by 5 p.m. on the 26th of November. So the voter registration and application for postal votes is the same time, the same day. Now the thing to watch out for is that if people are travelling and going to be away, say they're going to India or somewhere else, postal votes won't get to India and back in time for the 12th of December. So they should then consider getting a proxy vote. Now this is a process by which they know they're not able to vote in person, and they can appoint someone else to vote in their place. So once again, they can contact their local authority, download the form, or go to the local authority and get a form. They have to fill in the details and fill in who is going to vote in their stead. So for example, you may have families where the parents are going away and they go to India, and the youngsters, the children who are over 18 are still going to be behind. So the parents can appoint either their parents or whoever to vote in their place. Now each person, this is where it gets complicated, each person can do up to 2 proxy votes for someone that they don't know. So it could be your next door neighbours, for example. So if it's not a family relation, each person can do up to 2. If it's a family relation, a direct family, mother, father, grandparents, or son and daughter, etc., then you can do any number. But I think the guide really is, it's best to get someone you know who can attend the polling station on the 12th of December, and they'll vote in the way that you want them to vote, which is very important, because obviously if you appoint a proxy, they go off and vote, and it's up to them how they vote, and you don't have any real control over them. So it's very important that you get someone that you know is going to vote the way you want them to vote, and you can trust them to actually go and vote. Now we also have, of course, the postal vote system, where postal votes will arrive at home. They'll arrive certainly in Harrow. I know that they will arrive probably on the 22nd or 23rd of November. Then people have to fill in the forms. They have to prove their identity by signing the form and putting their date of birth, and they put the vote in one envelope, sealed up, and then the proof of identity in an outer envelope, and then post it back to the Civic Centre. All the instructions are there for people. So it's very important that people who maybe have difficulty in walking to the polling station or may live a fair distance away, remember on the 12th of December it's going to be dark very early, be dark around 4 o'clock or maybe even earlier. So people may feel, oh, I don't really want to go to the polling station. And of course the weather can be bad. It could be cold and wet and horrible. And people say, well, I'm not sure if I want to do that. So a postal vote is a definite for people in that position. Equally, if someone's working away from home, they may be coming home and they're not sure if they can get back in time to vote. Best way is to get a postal vote, then it's guaranteed. And I think that's the key for me, that because so many people either can't get back in time or are going away, or they may be infirm, they're not able to walk very easily, far better to get a postal vote, because if you've got a postal vote, you control it because you're filling in the vote and no one does it for you. Whereas if you appoint someone to vote in your place, I'm afraid then you're dependent on that person to vote the right way.
So, Bob, as I understand, you have the option of proxy votes and then you have postal votes. With proxy votes, as you explained and what's available on the website, there is a possibility that the authenticity of the vote might change because the person who might go to the polling station might not share your views. So you probably have to trust that person 100% to give them that control. With the postal voting, there's a lot of criteria, such as proof of ID or who can register to vote.
Okay, well, the first thing obviously is when you register to vote, it's individual voter registration. So each individual is responsible to register on the electoral register. So you have to sign for it to say you are that person. And obviously you provide your full name and your full address and the details of how long you've lived that address, plus your date of birth. And then the electoral returning officer can actually register you to vote. And that's a simple system. When it comes to postal voting, obviously you just have to state that you're on the register at that address, and then the electoral registration officer will check that. And then if you say I want a postal vote, then you provide your date of birth and your signature, and then fill in the form. Now, when it comes to a proxy vote, as I've said, you have to indicate who you want to be your proxy. The one thing that is that I haven't mentioned is that the person you appoint as a proxy must be on the electoral register in the borough in which they're exercising that proxy, so the electoral returning officer can check that person is actually able to vote themselves. Not necessarily in the same constituency, but in the same local authority area. And the reason why this is important is obviously you can't have someone turning up at the polling station saying, I am Mr. So-and-so, I'm voting on behalf of so-and-so, if they can't verify who you are. What will happen is that after you've applied for your proxy vote, then the person you've appointed as a proxy will get sent a letter from the electoral registration officer to say you have been appointed as the proxy for the person that they're acting as proxy for, and you go to vote for that person at the polling station at which the person would normally vote. So it could be, for example, that someone comes from a different area to vote for someone in a particular road because they're going to be away. That's perfectly valid and should be done in an appropriate way. They take the letter with them to the polling station and say, I am voting on behalf of Mr. Patel or Mr. Shah or whoever of such and such an address, and here is my letter informing me that I'm to do that on their behalf. They will check the list, issue the vote, and then the person votes for them, puts it in the ballot box in the normal way, and then goes away. So that's the way that the proxy voting works. On postal voting, obviously the voting pack is sent to the individual, and it's either sent to their home address or to the address at which they specify they want the vote to be sent to. But I would stress that if people are going abroad, say to India or wherever, then actually relying on postal votes is not a good idea, because to get the postal vote sent to India, for them to complete it and then return by the 12th of December, there's a question mark about whether that's achievable or not. So every vote counts in these elections, and that's why we're so keen that people have the opportunity to exercise their right to vote, which is the key. I would also emphasise, which is something that often people don't realise, is that Commonwealth citizens with a British passport are entitled to vote in our elections. Often people think, well, I haven't got the right to vote, so I shouldn't bother to register. Yes, they do have the right to register and the right to vote. So I would urge them to do so, because this is obviously an important thing, that they live in this country, they are part of this country, they need to exercise their view on the general election.
So just to emphasize what Bob has said, it is very important. When we talk about Commonwealth citizens, one must mean countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. If you belong to all these countries, you look up, if you belong to a Commonwealth country, you have the right to vote in the United Kingdom. The importance that you must understand is your vote counts, and one must not think that your vote doesn't matter, because every vote counts. So Bob, again, going back to the registration bit. So yes, okay, so you can vote if you are registered to vote. Now, proof of ID, postal voting.
Well, obviously, if you're once you're registered on the electoral register, so your name will appear on the electoral register, and then you have the right to vote by post if you so choose to do so. All you're doing is you're providing your signature and your date of birth, because remember, everyone should have done that already to be on the electoral register. So from that perspective, it's just a simple one-page form, which is very easy to follow and easy to understand. What is important, however, and political parties are cautioned not to get involved in this. Political parties should not be going round collecting loads of forms off people and handing them in to the electoral registration officer and saying, we've got all these postal votes. What should happen, there's nothing wrong with giving out forms to enable people to vote, but it's up to the individual then to register and send the forms off themselves to say, I want a postal vote, or I want a proxy vote, and this is my person to act in my stead as a voter. So because we have had, I'm afraid, lots of examples of people trying to cheat people on their postal votes, and that is something that is completely against the law and should not be done.
So अगर आप ये प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं तो आपको ये समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है, अगर आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म मिलता है, आप अपनी डिटेल्स भर के वो वापस वोटिंग सेंटर पे भेज दीजिए. देन आपको एक फॉर्म भरना है जो सिर्फ आपकी आंखें देखेंगी, सिर्फ आपके लिए होगा, जो आप भरेंगे, और आपको एक प्रूफ देना है, वो सिर्फ आप देंगे, जो आप एक बंद लिफाफे में डाल के भेज दीजिए बाय पोस्ट. मीनिंग, if you are going to receive your registered postal voting form, you need to sign it and make sure that you do it yourself. Do not rely on anybody else. Do not hand over the form to anyone else. You might receive the form in many ways, but it is your responsibility to do the secrecy of the vote yourself and make sure it is posted in absolute secrecy, because your vote, although it matters, it also should not be utilized for wrong purposes. Now, one more question comes to our mind. Spouse, and if spouses have different names and last name issues, in the proxy scenario, how does that work?
Well, you're asked on the proxy form to say if your chosen proxy has any relationship to you. So you then put down it's husband or wife or son, daughter, or whatever the relationship is. Obviously that's important because it's a family relationship, and then it's quite clear. If it's someone that is totally disconnected from your family and it's not a blood relative, then you just put down, indicate that there's no relationship, and then that is when the rule kicks in that any individual who's a voter in that area can exercise a proxy on behalf of two people. So this is an example where you might be going away to India, and your next door neighbours are going to be at home. So you're not related to them, and so you say, will you vote for me? Right. I appoint you as my proxy. I want you to vote. I would hope everyone would say, be sensible and say, I want you to vote Conservative at the election.
You wish.
But you'll definitely vote for that way. Oh yes, don't worry, I'll do it. But the only risk is that, of course, that person may go along and vote for another party, because they've got the opportunity to do that. So you really have to trust the person that you're appointing as a proxy. Now, equally true, and this is where it does get complicated. Say the whole family's going away, but one person is going to be left at home. They can act as proxy for the whole of the family, so any number of the family, but there must be a blood relative, a direct blood relative, either father, son, mother, daughter, grandparents, or whatever. They must have that blood relationship, and they have to say that on the form to say what's the relationship, and it's either father, son, mother, daughter, whatever the relationship is, and then you can do any number of proxy votes for your family.
So when our viewers are watching this program, the reason we are doing this program is that we felt quite passionately about this whole voting procedure. A lot of our viewers are of a certain age, and you feel that you cannot travel and you can't reach out, your vote doesn't count. And the reason we did this program, a special Rajneeti special with Bob, was to make sure that you understand that you don't need to be rich, you don't need to be poor, you need to just make a stand and live by it. And for you to do that, one, you have to look at the criteria. Now, for example, if you're 75 and you are going to India for 3 months and your family is here, then only your immediate family, you have to trust them, and you are able to do that, to make a proxy vote for you. Only your blood relative. Is that right, Bob?
That's right.
So that's what we're saying to you. The government website has a lot of information on it. Anyone over the age of 18 can vote. Now, in terms of the voting process, postal voting, do you feel at any point that when we are encouraging people to vote, there could be misuse of it? Or can you once again very briefly tell us, you have the registration form, and what was the other thing that you mentioned once again?
Well, when you get your postal vote, it arrives in a pack, and you must fill in the declaration of identity, which is obviously your signature and your date of birth. Your signature has to match the signature on the original application. So that when you send your postal vote back, the electoral registration officer will check that the same signature is coming back as was on the original application. And if they don't match, then they'll rule the vote out of order, and it won't count at all. So it's very important that people fill in the forms themselves, and then when they get the vote, they fill in the form of declaration of identity themselves and sign in the same way as they originally signed.
So I'll reiterate. अगर तमे फॉर्म भर्યું હોય જે રજિસ્ટ્રેશન ફોર્મ છે અને તમે એ સિગ્નેચર કરી હોય તો એ સિગ્નેચર અને તમારી જે પોસ્ટલ આઈડી પ્રૂફની જે સિગ્નેચર છે એ બંને મળવી જોઈએ, મેચ કરવી જોઈએ, તો જ એ વોટ કાઉન્ટ થાય. કારણ કે જે વોટિંગ કાઉન્સિલમાં બેઠા હોય, they will check the signature. So it's very important. Although we are serving the community and it is done for you to be able to make a difference, it cannot be used to a disadvantage to the members of the public. So please make sure that the signatures match.
The other
Carry
thing
on.
obviously is very important is when you get your pack and you're voting, it is your vote. It is wrong that anyone comes around and interferes with this. There have been examples, I'm afraid, where people come around and try to get people to fill their forms in and trying to force them to vote in a particular way. Sometimes in families, I'm afraid, people may try and force the family to vote in a particular way. Each individual has the right to vote as they choose. It is their vote, and no one else should actually complete the documentation. No one else should actually force people to vote in a particular way.
Is there any language help? Are there translations?
I'm not sure if there is anything that's sent out, but obviously, because obviously there are so many community languages that it's difficult to send this information by post to everyone. But there is most local authorities will have the language translation available if the individual wants to make contact with the electoral registration office.
So अगर आप वोटिंग फॉर्म को नहीं समझ पाते और यू डोंट अंडरस्टैंड, आपको नहीं समझ आवતું तो मेक श्योर તમે કોઈ ટ્રાન્સલેટરની હેલ્પ લો, आप किसी ट्रांसलेटर की मदद लो और वो फॉर्म सही तरीके से भरिए आप. सो पोस्टल वोट काउंट करता है, लेकिन सही तरीके से करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. आज का हमारा प्रोग्राम सिर्फ इसीलिए है कि जो लोग नहीं आ सकते, the people that cannot come need to understand the process. It's very simple, very straightforward. We've just gone through the ID process. Now I'm going to ask Bob about the actual form in terms of choosing. Is it straightforward or is it quite complicated for the public to understand?
In terms of voting?
Choosing the party.
Well, it's very easy. All they have to look for is the Conservative Party and put a cross by that name.
That's what he says.
No, but the ballot paper is the same ballot paper as if you go to the polling station.
Correct.
So it will have the list of all the candidates in numerical order, together with their names, their party, and the party symbol. So sometimes people who can't read English very well may look for the party symbol. So our party signal is the oak tree, which they should look for as the
you
Conservative.
throw that in.
I will, as the Conservative symbol. There are other parties on the ballot paper,
Yeah.
and it's up to them to tell you what the symbols are. But
On a very non-biased way, I say, on a very non-biased way, I would also like to emphasize that if you do not understand the names or for reading English matters, is a problem, then there are symbols. Please look at them in advance. So when you do even the procedure at home, it's pretty straightforward. Go to the website, download the information you need to. The forms are available for you to download. Once again, the deadline for all of this process to finish for the postal voting is 26th of November. 26th of November 2019. The elections are on December 12th, so we will know which way they go. But is there any other information that the person doing postal voting needs to know or should be aware of before we...
The one thing I would just say is that the postal votes, I would encourage people that when they receive their postal votes to fill it in and send it off as fast as they can. Now, if for some reason the postal vote arrives late, or maybe they're not sure if it will reach the civic centre or the town hall by the time they've posted they can actually have someone take the postal vote to the polling station on the day of the election. So they can receive the postal votes up until 10 p.m. at night on polling day.
Right.
But obviously I would say, look, you've got a postal vote. It'll come out certainly in Harrow. I know that they're coming out something like the 22nd, 23rd of November. But of course, people can still apply up until the 26th of November, which means there'll be another tranche of postal votes sent out, probably in the early December. Please fill them in, send them in straight away. But if you're in doubt and you haven't got round to do it, I meant to do it, but I haven't done it. It can be taken to the polling station literally on the day, but just don't take the risk. So
once again, as we summarize our today's interview and our process for postal voting, I would like to say that on behalf of Rajneeti, our main agenda was for you to understand that polling aapke liye ho rahi hai. It is for you, and your vote counts. I read somewhere that you need to bring about change. If you need to bring about change, you need to choose the party that follows or rather sets out guidelines that match your views. If you cannot go on the day to the polling station, utilize the postal voting facility. We've just explained in detail. There are 2 simple forms which go in 2 different envelopes. They go into the little bigger envelope. All you need to do is post it, and then your vote will count. So once again, I would like to say a big massive thank you to Bob Blackman for coming in today and explaining to us, to our viewers, the ways to vote. And Bob, any parting thoughts on what's going on and your views on how people can make sure that their vote counts?
Well, I think particularly, for the Indian community out there, the fact is that this is a massive opportunity to send a signal to politicians about their feelings. They get the chance to vote. Rarely, of course, normally general elections are held every 3 or 4 years. So this is a massive opportunity, and I would say everyone who's got the opportunity should exercise their vote. So they exercising their views and getting the MPs that they want in Parliament to represent them, because that's our job, to represent the people that we serve. And all we wish for, and certainly all I wish for, is the opportunity to serve the public, but the public need to meet us halfway and vote for us so that we can actually demonstrate that we've got the will of the public behind us.
That's absolutely true. And I would say that you are, if you're watching this program, I'm sure you will feel that your vote counts and that you will make that promise to yourself to go and vote. Whichever party wins, I hope is the party that will make this country a better and a more progressive country. I'm incredibly grateful that you've watched us, and I hope you are inspired or at least encouraged to go and vote out there on the 12th of December. But before that, if you want to do it by post, it's a simple process. And like we've said to you, if you have any questions, the government website is very comprehensive. And thank you for watching us. From Rajneeti, Darshni Joshi saying thank you. Thank you for watching us, and thank you, Bob Blackman. Namaskar. Welcome back to Rajneeti. In our earlier segment, we were with Bob Blackman discussing the ways to vote by postal or by proxy for people that can't make it on election day. December 12th is the big day. So at Rajneeti, we've been meeting several dignitaries from the political field. So in this segment, we have Dr. Chandra Kanagetti. He's standing as a Conservative candidate for Worli Sandwell. I'd like to welcome you, Doctor. Dr. Chandra, welcome to Rajneeti.
Namaste.
Namaste ji. So thank you for coming in. I have lots of questions about you because obviously this is your first time, and I'm sure you are going to make a difference, because I believe that being in politics, it's all about making a difference.
Yeah.
So before we go into your political side, tell us a bit about yourself, Dr. Chandra. Where are you from?
I'm basically from Hyderabad, India. I came to UK in 2002. I grew up in a very middle class family in India, and studied my medical graduation in Guntur, which is in Andhra Pradesh now. And after qualifying for my MBBS, I moved to UK after doing my exams and coming over here in 2002, and I became a GP in 2006.
So it's been an interesting ride for you from Hyderabad to London.
It is.
And how has it been so far in terms of your emigration and your journey to United Kingdom?
It's very interesting. In 2002, we have almost a big billboards in Hyderabad, in British Academy and other places for welcoming people, immigrant doctors to come to UK. So then I realized that, NHS, which is the best healthcare service anywhere in the world, has actually almost 1/3 doctors from Indian subcontinent. So I got interested about NHS and started to learn more about NHS, contacted my friends who are working in NHS here, and came over to see, let's see how it works here. And I really loved it. and that's it. I thought, I'm definitely going to stay here in NHS, passed my exams in 2002, and started working in NHS since then.
So I often say, being a doctor requires a certain kind of a mindset.
Yeah.
And you require dedication, you require perseverance. In terms of being a GP, dealing with a very full-on career, how is it for you to now delve into politics?
Yeah, from my childhood, I'm interested in politics. I was, in fact, my class leader in medical graduation, and then I was supporting BJP when I was in my school and college days, and then in medical graduation I was a supporter of a local political party, and I used to go and support those political parties I used to support. So I have a keen interest in politics from the beginning. So when I came to this country, I was apolitical to start with, and then I started looking at the main political parties. There are only two main political parties in this country, Labour and Conservative Party. So when I looked at their principles, my values were very closer to Conservative Party. And Conservative Party was the only party which actually can support anyone, irrespective of the background, to achieve their career goals, to achieve their maximum potential.
So here's my question to you. With the Conservative Party, is it easy to join the party, or is it who you know? Is it for the rich, connected people, or is it a genuinely unbiased procedure?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Darshini. You can join the party by paying your £25 per year, but it is about you work towards the party. So we used to campaign for the party on a regular basis, and then when I want to actually say that I want to become a parliamentary candidate, I was told that there is a proper assessment. It's called Parliamentary Assessment Board. There's almost a day-long exam with essay questions, public speaking exercise, interview, and a group exercise. So you have to pass that exam to be on the approved candidate list of Conservative Party. Unlike Labour Party, which Corbyn, if you know somebody, he just puts the candidates here, like he did in Leicester East recently. So
yes, I'll interrupt you there. The reason I'm interrupting you is because I want to know, because a lot of our viewers and a lot of people that we know have been concerned about the whole Leicester East election procedure. Do you know anything about it, the inside?
Yeah, well, Leicester East, as you know, Keith has been there for many years, and Leicester East people were supporting Keith Vaz for obvious reasons. He stepped down. I think he did the right thing to do. So when you're looking for Leicester East particularly, there's a predominantly 45% Indian origin people there.
Yes.
And it's a diverse population there. So so you were expecting which candidate will replace Keith Vaz, and so Corbyn actually brings somebody, a councillor when he was in Islington, ex-councillor, and he brought that person from Islington to Leicester East, which is a big thing actually, so they're walls apart, So clearly they're actually bringing candidates who what it matters, rather than who will do the best to the constituency.
So tell me something, your journey, your political journey.
Yeah.
So as I understand, you were interested in politics, you joined the Conservative Party. Do you hold any political posts that kind of gave you some background?
I've been a GP since 2006. I've been working very hard to support my local population. So when I saw in my GP consultations, 15% of the time it turns out to be about social causes.
Right.
That I don't have any say. So I started thinking about my own local ward where I used to work. It's called Golden Hill Sandyford in Stoke-on-Trent. I thought I could do much more to my people who has given so much to me by supporting me as their GP. They treated me as their family, kind of extended family member, So I thought, let's stand as a councillor in this area. And that's a complete Labour area. And there's been a Labour council for the last 52 years there.
52 years?
Yes, yeah. And so,
but you're a councillor now there, right?
Yes, I am a councillor.
And how did you manage that?
So when I told Conservative Party that I wish to stand as a councillor there, So they want me to submit an application. I did, and they said yes, you can stand there. And whenever a Conservative Party got more than 27% vote there, and so the local MP Ruth Smeet of Stoke North, she thought it's a very safe Labour seat, and she brought her mum to stand against me. And she didn't realize that I'm going to stand at the time. And it was a tough fight. They played all the bad politics and everything. But in spite of that, what I did was that I trusted one statement, which is people trust their doctor more than a politician. And that actually proved right. Actually, I won with a huge majority of nearly 27% majority of the Labour candidate in the recent May 2019 council elections. So the people in my ward showed that they trust me as a doctor, and they will trust me as a councillor as well.
So, in terms of being a councillor, how different will your role be from becoming a councillor now to, hopefully, if you make it to winning the elections? How will your role change, and how will you commit yourself to your role as an MP and continue being a doctor?
In
GP.
Of course, in 6 months of being a councillor, I was able to make so much change. I got so much satisfaction as well. The reason is that there's so much work I did. I closed a number of potholes in my streets. I started a campaign called Pothole Free My Ward, and I proactively went and took pictures and reported those potholes, chased those, and then I did a skips days where people can throw away what they do not want. And I got a number of calls from people who need support for their council houses, which I managed to get them sorted out within days rather than weeks, and it was never heard of. They never seen a councillor do so much hard work for them. And my Facebook page has so much positive comments from my ward residents. I was so overwhelmed. I was so happy that I was able to make some difference, some change to my people who actually have been treating me so well as well. So what I did was, if I can achieve so much in the first 6 months, what can I achieve as an MP? And when I saw what's happening in the parliament during the Brexit negotiation and everything, it was horrible to see people who were there with so much less commitment to the people who they serve. For example, my Stoke North constituency has voted 68% leave, but my MP has voted always against Brexit.
Right.
So how can you go there representing the people of the constituency when you're voting against the will of the people you're supposed to serve? So this made me think, and I thought, let me stand as well and be the true representative of the people we serve. And that's when I started to become an approved candidate, and then I became a candidate recently, just a few days ago.
This is exactly what we try and do at Rajneeti. We try and find candidates and we interview people that actually want to serve you. They want to serve the constituency that they want to stand for. And it's quite heartwarming to see that you've made a difference already as a councillor. But obviously, it's not going to be an easy journey. As I understand, you're standing against John Speller, and he's held the Labour seat in the constituency of Worley for 22 years. Is it going to be difficult, you think?
It is difficult, but I think, if you look at the Worley constituency, it has voted 62% leave. And John Speller has consistently voted against Brexit, any Brexit deal in the Parliament. So basically, he voted against the will of the Worley people. And I think people are very clever. They're waiting for their opportunity to punish those people who do not listen to their will. And that's what is going to happen. So I've been knocking the doors of Worley residents for the last few days, and since I became a candidate. And it's amazing what I'm hearing. People are saying that I always voted for Labour, but this time my vote is for the Conservative Party, my vote is for you. And I think it's not just a few people we're hearing about this kind of conversations we're having. It's number of residents. And I think a big tsunami is going to happen where none of the Labour seats are safe for anyone. And it will be a shock on December 13th.
I think that is a very true statement. I think everybody sort of building their hopes up to the election for
Yeah.
change. Change is absolutely necessary,
Yeah.
but one has to ask this question to you. When you see yourself doing what you're doing, how will you make that difference? And what is it that you've planned in terms of initiatives that you think will make a difference?
Yeah. Worli is a part of Sandwell, and it's part of Black Country. And when I see that Worli has
Sorry, I'll stop you there. So for people that are watching us today, some of you will not know what Black Country means. Dr. Chandra, please explain to us, when you say the term Black Country, what does it mean?
Black Country is the name comes from previously is a highly industrialized region with a lot of mining and
Coal mining.
coal
Yeah.
mining. Yeah. So because the black soot that comes out through the factories, it was named as Black Country. at
And
the time.
which sort of boroughs or counties are?
It includes Sandwell, Dudley, Wolverhampton, Walsall.
So say those again.
Wolverhampton, Walsall, Dudley, and Sandwell. So it's very close to Birmingham. So almost the Birmingham is just the other side, and this side is Sandwell. So Worli is one of the three constituencies. Actually, there are four constituencies, but one constituency has overlapping more than Sandwell. The three main constituencies in Sandwell, all three are Labour held. There are 71 councillors in Sandwell Borough, Metropolitan Borough Council. Out of 71, 69 are Labour Party, and that's been the case for many years. And so you can see that there's a completely Labour-head council, Labour MPs, and you can see that it's the most deprived area, one of the most deprived areas in the country.
So when you mean
Yeah.
deprived, you mean in terms of
In
the
the-
welfare of the society?
It is in the welfare of the society. People who are on employment benefits and people who are unemployed is the highest unemployment rate when compared to rest of West Midlands and rest of the country. More of small business are closing there than anywhere else. So there's number of things that's going wrong
Are
there.
going wrong.
But people are actually not looking for any positive change because they never had any challenge. And this is what I want to bring in. I want to show them that our area, this of Sandwell, can get the investment that's needed only if you have the positive leaders who can bring the positive change to the residents of Sandwell.
Residents of Sandwell, when you've been campaigning
Yeah.
and when you've been meeting people, when you see their mindset and when you see their state of mind, at the moment, do you think they're satisfied or do you think they're looking for change desperately?
Definitely, they're looking for change. Not only those people who voted for Brexit because their parliamentary MPs are not voting based on their will. It's the loss of jobs. No new businesses are coming into Sandwell, and there's one hospital in my constituency called Midland Metropolitan Hospital. Unfortunately, the builder has gone into administration almost 18 months ago, and the building has stopped. And you need new hospital to that area, and nothing has been happening at all. And I go to this constituency on a regular basis because we have the Indian visa service there as well. And I attend the Gurudwara, Smitic Gurudwara sometimes, and I attend Durga Temple in the same ward. So I've been to this constituency for the last many years. I have seen the same thing and no development at all in the last few years. And the reason for that is that there's no positive stakeholders coming and investing in that area, bringing jobs, bringing new businesses, and the economy seems like a standstill in that area. That's because nobody is actually caring about that area. And I think Conservatives, with the good leadership of Boris, want to bring businesses more opportunities, give small business more opportunities, and get the economy stronger. And this is only way they can do it is by voting for Conservative Party.
It's interesting. Over the last few weeks, I've been interviewing different candidates from Labour and from the Conservatives, and the common message that I'm getting from the candidates is that there is a global push towards growth, helping small businesses grow. And I think that is extremely encouraging. So I'm glad that you would be working hard towards changing the plight of the people in terms of the description that you're giving. What are the crime figures like?
Oh yeah. Again, when I'm talking the doors, people are saying in Smithic, Langley, other areas that the crime is going up. And we need safer communities. That's why what is in our manifesto is 20,000 extra police officers on the streets, protecting businesses, protecting people, and making sure that the knives are out of the streets and they can stop and check. And these are kind of extra things Preeti Patel is actually making happen, can actually reduce our knife crime and make sure that our communities are much safer.
In terms of education, as you very rightly put, Birmingham, Sandwell, and all these sort of neighborhoods in the West Midlands are quite diverse in their culture and their makeup. The diaspora is quite Asian in their makeup. Have you planned any initiatives, or are you thinking of some educational initiatives for the local community?
I think if you look at the diverse communities, particularly in Smethwick Ward and Old Worley, these are the wards in Worley constituency. There's a huge unemployment and also lack of skills in people, making them unable to get jobs. So what my plans were is having a training hub for youngsters to learn skills so that they can get jobs. And for schools, what we are saying in the manifesto is that we're going to put more funding into schools. Every school will be more funded, and we're also planning for extra 40 free schools. So just compare this our manifesto with Labour manifesto, which says that let's nationalize private schools.
Yes.
And just imagine, to just nationalize the private schools, it takes millions. And where are these kind of kids going to go? So we have a clear plan, a credible plan to invest in our schools, to make sure that we can reduce the crime and support the communities.
In terms of the manifesto and your leader, Boris Johnson, there's a lot of upheaval going on at the moment. There's a lot of interviews being done. What is it about his policy at the moment and his manifesto that you feel are, say, 5 important points that will hit the people straight in the heart and say, you know what, we want to vote Conservative?
The first and foremost, deliver Brexit on 31st of January. All the 635 candidates are committed to deliver the deal Boris has agreed. So deliver the Brexit and start investing in our public services by making new trade deals with the European Union, trade deals with India, China, America, having those trade deals which actually can get money and resources into our country to invest in public services, getting more police officers into our streets to have a safer communities, more investment into schools, and more importantly, make sure good investment goes into our NHS, which we all cherish.
So Labour has been chugging this figure of 40 billion that it's going to invest into the NHS. What is the Conservative perspective? So for you obviously have some inside knowledge. So what is the Conservative perspective on that?
Conservatives started a plan called long-term plan investment, and Theresa May has started the plan. Already 20 billion is already committed to go into NHS. And Boris actually added more investment plans it will make up to 31 billion pounds going to NHS. These are realistic figures, and we already seen this 20 billion going into NHS, and you can see that most of the general practices have formed into something called primary care networks. They're already working together, and they already have investment going to them for additional workforce. It's already happening, So if you can imagine that by 2022, you have 20 billion investment extra into our NHS, and making sure that another extra investment goes into our hospitals. And there are 6 new hospitals planned, and also renovation of 40 other hospitals. Modernizing our large hospitals is planned as well with this investment. All this investment will support, and these are credible plans we have. Not just saying that as Labour Party saying that we'll just invest more. What does it mean? Nobody understands. We have credible plan, and we're also planning to increase our GP numbers and increase our GP appointments by 50 million a year.
The waiting time, I personally have come across in the last week or so some excruciating waiting times. Do you think that's going to change?
Definitely. With the investment happening, what will happen is that there is an additional workforce coming into primary care and general practice. So GPs will have more time to.
But where is that workforce coming from?
So this is the workforce. They're not looking for GPs anymore because you cannot get more GPs. They tried it, but it didn't work out. So this new plan has actually recruiting extra paramedics, physician associates, pharmacists, social prescribers, physiotherapists. So these people can actually support the general practitioners so that they can share the workload with the GPs.
So we're talking about specialists.
It's like a specialist kind of thing, but they are supporting the general practitioners and in the general practice in the primary care. So they will share the workload so the GPs can concentrate on more complex patients who need more time and support.
So leading from your discussion about the NHS, the reason I'm obviously talking to you more about the NHS is as a GP, you have in-depth knowledge of what goes on beneath the system and how you're going to make that difference and what you are going to bring. So there is this talk by the Labour about a 4-day working week, is that right?
Yeah, and this is what, so if you think about the 4-day work in NHS will need billions. And so how can you actually, already we're struggling with the workforce with a 5-day week, and how can you actually have the workforce that can sustain 4-day week? So this so Labour is so desperate to form a government. They're just checking out everything they're saying is free, but I do not think they will be able to deliver any of those plans. And what will happen is that those policies will push our country into more chaos, more delays in everything, and more dithering. So we want a credible plan, which is only the Conservative government can provide. And I hope listeners can remember that Boris has clear plans, and our Conservative manifesto clear plans, which will sustain our economy, which will improve our businesses, which will actually increase our investment into our public services, including NHS, and make our country sustainable in the near future.
But with the Brexit that we've been discussing, and it's obviously been over discussed, but I have one simple question. If we have voted to leave, and if a lot of the workforce comes from Europe, how is that going to affect the NHS and other areas such as, building work and other sort of educational areas? Don't you think that is going to be slightly a downslide?
So it's a very good question. Europe has always been, we are dependent on EU workers a lot. So we will actually continue to negotiate with the EU about a fair proposition of immigration. So what Conservative government is proposing in our manifesto is, the Conservative Party is proposing is a points-based system of immigration. Unlike Labour, which is offering a free kind of immigration with no borders, So what we're proposing is that which skills we need, the points will be based on that, like an Australian points migration system, which works very well in Australia. So we'll get that kind of system of immigration here, get the right kind of skills of people, which will support our all industries where we need these people. And again, we need EU workers, actually EU doctors, EU nurses. All those people are very vital to our NHS. So we'll negotiate that kind of fixed number of immigration based on the point system, and which will support our businesses and public services.
This is all really useful for people that are watching us today. I mean, politics is just not about, the nitty-gritty of the runnings of the government, but it is actually about making a difference, understanding what policies will affect you, what policies affect your life, whether it is healthcare, whether it is your safety, whether it is your education, whether it's employment. So we've discussed all these important aspects of the political life. But now let's come back to Dr. Chandra and who he is, and a little bit more about. So Dr. Chandra, we've discussed all the important bits, but we must also share with our viewers something about you. So other than being a GP and interested in politics, Dr. Chandra, what do you like to do in your free time?
Of course, I'm a father of 3 boys. I love spending time with my 3 boys, the lovely kids. And my eldest son is doing his A-levels, and I spend time with him. And the youngest one is only 1, and I love spending it. And My middle son is 10 years. So I love spending time with them, play some time as well, cricket with them. So I also play badminton regularly with the team we have in Stoke. I also do other roles, like I'm a chair of British International Doctors Association nationally, and we have regular meetings to support international doctors, and I do some voluntary work as well.
So, your sons,
Yeah.
do they have any political aspirations? Do they talk about politics with you?
No, they don't want actually, and I try to explain to them about it, but they're not interested in politics yet.
It's good though, but it's important. I always say that the youth are what are going to shape the future.
True.
Coming back to youth and this journey around making you the person that you are. I mean, the one thing that this whole conversation with Dr. Chandra has shared with me has told me that it requires a certain level of persistence to succeed in life, to be a professional, to have a dream. But the question I have is this: has it been difficult? Have you faced, different levels of, I would say, questioning, why did you come from a different country to this country? Has it been difficult for you? Have you had any difficult stories?
No, my journey was difficult. Coming as an immigrant, and you don't know anything about this country. April 2002, I was dragging my almost broken suitcase along the streets of East Ham, coming from and my money I brought was only £1,000, which I finished in 3 months. I don't have any money for nearly a month, so I went to Gurudwaras because you get food there. So and I went to temples where I can get free food. So I struggled for a month or so before I got my first job in NHS. But I have to say, this country is a very fair society and fair country. And when you have skills and knowledge, this country supports you and makes sure that you achieve your maximum potential. And this is why I was able to achieve all the career goals I had. I had a business, I run 3 GP practice in Stoke, and I have a restaurant as well in Stoke, Indian restaurant.
Oh, Indian restaurant.
Yeah, it is, yeah. You must come, I know.
I would definitely.
We make the authentic dum biryani there, yeah. And I ran other businesses which I want to. I have achieved all I wish to do in this country, and probably I have to say that's really fair, that we're able to achieve those goals in this country. So that's why I want to give something back to this country, which has given so much to me. And within 17 years, I'm able to achieve these things. I think anybody can achieve as well with perseverance and making sure that you have this goal. Everything is achievable as long as you've been honest to yourself and work hard.
So, this is Dr. Chandra Kanagati. Dr. Chandra Kanagati is standing for the constituency of Worley, Sandwell. And we have discussed with him several things, a lot about himself, why he wants to stand for election. It's a difficult seat, but he has the courage and he's willing to push himself. Not only is he a GP, but he's also a humanitarian. He does different kinds of work, and it tells you the story of someone who comes from a different country, sets up a new life here, and has a dream to make a difference, to make a political difference. As we come towards the general election, we're going to meet a lot of people who are like him, inspirational, who want you, wherever you come from, to actually believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself and you have a dream, follow it. That's what Dr. Chandra says. So, any parting words for the audiences?
Yeah, please support me in Worley constituency, and I'll be there for you. I'll make sure that I'll bring a positive change to the residents of Worley, and please trust me and please vote for me. Thank you.
Wonderful. So, this is Darshini Joshi signing off at Rajneeti. Namaste and thank you for watching Rajneeti. I hope you have any questions, any comments, do write in. Thank you.